He's already added D-Hop and Josh Uche. Bet Mahomes was behind that, trying to make the team better at all. It's called force multiplier.
Yeah, and what did he say publicly? Nothing.
He didn't say, not my job.
Okay.
You love, I'll be a Mahomes guy. You're a Joe Burrow guy.
You are a Mahomes guy. He's Burrow all the way.
They'd be looking for a cornerback,
Burrow
according to
and
Jeremy Fowler. Do you think Kansas City needs to make another move?
Well, they're far and away the best team in the league, and they haven't lost in almost a year. So they don't need to do anything except for keep playing. But I think the loss of Jalen Watson was bigger than people recognize. Last year, they had 3 excellent corners. Snead, McDuffie, and the 7th-round pick, Jalen Watson, who they have developed into a real player. And one of the reasons they were comfortable letting Snead go is because Jalen Watson was there. Jalen Watson was playing great. He broke his ankle. Like, it was a brutal injury. They think maybe he's back for the playoffs, but probably not. And since then, you have seen that spot targeted, whether it's Nazeeh Johnson, whoever's out there, Joshua Williams, they go after him. So if they were to make a move, it would definitively be corner. I don't think they're going to add 3 players at the deadline. They added DeAndre Hopkins, who's already playing and will play. They say Josh Uche could play this week. He's going to be a situational pass rusher. I think they're just going to have to say, hey, we can't be great at every single spot on defense. Because, by the way, they're about to get Charles Omenihu back, who was a great defensive end for them last year, but he tore his ACL in the playoffs. So I don't think they need to, and I don't think they're going to.
And it's very rare to get defensive back help during the season. I mean, everybody's desperate for cornerbacks all the time. If you don't get them in free agency or the draft, typically you're not getting one the rest of the year. And that's why in New England we had to cross-train guys like Troy Brown and do some things that are a little bit unique, because you're always trying to create depth in the secondary, knowing that once the season starts, no one's getting rid of those guys because there's just so few of them that are out there that can compete at a high level.
I love the approach. I mean, they're 7-0, undefeated, obviously, and still looking to improve, even though they're beating everybody. So I love the approach. The only thing they need, and even without this, they've been winning, they need Mahomes to start playing like Mahomes. That's what they need. And again,
they'd be winning
they're
by a
still
lot.
7-0 without.
Wow. What do you think about how high they'd rise in the coaches' poll with that margin of victory? The player to watch on this note, whether it's for the Ravens, the Bills, or the Chiefs, is Marshawn Lattimore. Like, the Saints have lost 6 in a row. They are, whether they want to admit it or not, their season is over.
But they don't do smart things.
And I agree, but there was a report this morning that they have been listening, but they haven't been overwhelmed by any of the offers. Fine. I mean, the deadline's in 5 days.
Right.
Typically, trading away really good players isn't great business.
No, but
look at the Carolina Panthers. They're happy they got rid of CMC, and take a list of the other 10 guys they threw out there.
Lattimore, though, is a special case because he almost assuredly is a cap casualty for them this offseason because of the situation they're in. But Wilds' point might have been the best one. It's the smart thing to do, so the New Orleans Saints probably won't be doing it. Sorry I yelled at you about the Bengals.
No, you got Joe Burrow's going to Super Bowl.
No, I didn't say that.
Coming up
they
next,
shouldn't
we
give
talk
up.
about all the sub-500 teams that should be making moves. Most teams in this position would be sellers. You know, like the Patriots, they let Josh Uche go, the Raiders, the Panthers. That's where
those Panthers
for the
had 1 win.
Oh, how many Bengals have?
3 times as many.
Oh, well, gee whiz. He was asked if the Bengals need to make moves. Here's what he said.
With the trade deadline next Tuesday, Joe, and you see arguably the 3 elite teams right now in the AFC all making moves, Bills, Chiefs, and Ravens. What goes through your mind when you see those teams getting better?
That's not my job.
Do you ever wish that, you know, the organization would give you another weapon or 2, or on either side of the ball?
It's not my job.
I mean,
What, Wilds?
should Joe just? We're living in a fantasy world.
What do you
What
mean?
do you mean?
They're like, you saw the Bills and the Chiefs and the Ravens all making moves. How about you? You're under 500. Should you guys make like? You're not in the same conversation.
Hold on.
We're not talking about teams of the last 5 years. We're talking about this year.
Hold on. Let me ask you
You're
an
an
honest
under
question.
5. No other quarterback of an under 500 team.
Matt Stafford. Yes. they would, and they might trade for someone. So that
They just got their guy. I would argue that Matthew Stafford
Just got healthy.
he's had his whole team.
No, he hasn't had T. Higgins for 3 of their losses. They've lost 5.
lost
He hasn't
last
had T.
game
Higgins
without
for 3 of
T.
them.
Higgins.
Yeah, and they lost in the beginning of the year without T. Higgins. But hold on, question. Because you get so angry at how the Bengals are discussed. The reporter took Chiefs, Ravens, Bills. Set them aside. If those teams are off the board, and I say to you, someone is making the Super Bowl from the AFC, it's not those 3 teams. Who are you listing before you list them?
engaging in that conversation.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't have to answer that question.
Houston would be
Take
a team.
the top 3. Houston, sure.
Sure. And then I think the Bengals are right
But
there.
I'm not okay.
No, but
sure, they're my 5th. They'd be my. They're not mine, but if they're your 5th Super Bowl pick, but the idea that we're talking about the Bengals, like, man, the Chiefs are making moves. How about you? What?
But also-
You're gonna miss. They're missing the playoffs, and we talk about them like they're.
The Niners are missing the playoffs right
Niners
now.
are
Would
not
you
gonna
think?
miss the playoffs.
No, but right now they are.
But
just like
at least
Cincinnati.
they're 500.
So you would feel drastically better about this conversation if the Bengals had won one more game. You'd feel then
Well,
it's
that's
okay.
how it works.
No.
So yeah.
Okay.
And I feel drastically. Would you feel drastically different about the Lions if they were undefeated and the Chiefs weren't? Probably one would be undefeated.
Can we ask him, what do they want him to do? So he's got 2 outstanding receivers. He's got a really good tight end. They're averaging over 4 yards a carry. They put a ton of money into the offensive line. So do they want him to go grind all 22 and figure out where they can get pass rushers or defensive players? That's where the problem's been. So hey, Joe, don't worry about your job. Head to the film room and take a look at all the defensive possible trade options and tell us which one you like. They've done a ton of work to improve that offense, and he's got to hold up his end of the bargain, and he's on the right track by just focusing on his job. I mean, we're going to add another weapon. They've spent money, draft picks, everything to make this as good as they could.
And I think your point on you want him to grind the defensive tape is smart, because the reporter did kind of at the end say, add another weapon or help on the other side of the ball. Because where the Bengals need help on the offensive line, and those guys are never available. I know the Vikings just traded for a guy, but those are the guys who are traded the rarest during the year, and they need help on defense. And I think I personally think the question's totally legitimate, and I think Joe Burrow's answer was perfect. I don't know if privately if he should go to ownership without necessarily a name, but hey, man, this is our last year with me, Jamar, and T. You haven't re-signed Jamar, you will. Everyone knows T's leaving. This is despite what Kevin Wilde says, I believe Joe Burrow, we're still a contender. We need to get better on defense, but publicly you shouldn't say that.
But
so I
Joe
think
Burrow
he handled
didn't
that right.
speak up when his receivers were having contracts. He's going to speak up now when the defense is having issues? That's not his MO.
Can I say something? Joe Burrow didn't say anything publicly. So I don't know what he's saying behind the scenes. I think he handled that perfectly. I don't think he's supposed to. There's no answer other than that's not my job that doesn't throw his teammates under the bus.
No, why don't you say, I'm totally happy. We've got the guys that we have to win. If anything, I'd love to have my guys get their deals done.
Well, that wouldn't. They're not going to do a deal during the year.
No, but I'm saying if the answer is just to say not my job over and over, I don't think you can have an answer of I'm happy with the team that we got.
Because I think that takes pressure. I think he wants pressure on ownership to make the team better. And I think he should, because the other contenders.
Then say it.
No, I think you're right, Kevin. I think it's one of those things where anything he says about the organization or about making moves suddenly becomes Joe Burrow not happy with Cincinnati not making moves.
Right.
And by him not saying anything, it's the best.
No, that's not what Kevin's saying. That's what I'm saying. Kevin's saying the opposite. Kevin's saying that he needs to either advocate for it or say we're great as we are. I don't think he should say we're great as we are if he doesn't think they're great as they are. But he also shouldn't take pressure off of them. I think the ownership there is disastrous. I think it's embarrassing Jamar Chase's deal isn't done. I think what they've done with T. Higgins is foolish. And I think that the people who were like, hey, man, careful about Cincinnati, he can only raise that tide so high. I think he's in an impossible spot right there. I think that Patrick all last year towed the company line publicly and privately got after people, and they went out and made moves and did things.
Right. I think that's what you need to do. I'm with Nick. I think he handled it well. Don't say anything publicly so you throw your teammates under the bus. But privately, he should be talking to them Just like, look, we got to get the defense better. I agree. He's not going to know where necessarily, but we need to improve our defense. The offense, I think the offense is fine for the most part. But he also probably knows how cheap the owners are. That's the thing. He knows that they're cheap. And so that may be, squelching some of what he's saying too.
And I just think Patrick Mahomes' ability to affect ownership is radically different than Joe Burrow's. He's earned such a higher level of benefit of the doubt by what he's done for the organization.
Again, I don't know when I became Joe Burrow's #1 supporter. The counterpoint to that would be Mahomes is in a partnership with another